Yeah, and I found it interesting. I was watching an interview you did recently, and the question was asked, "What are you going to do about national defense?" And I thought, does this person realize the state of national defense? I mean, literally, we have no Leopard tanks remaining. We gave them all to Ukraine, and they're blown up on the battlefield. Uh,
I'm sure happy they
General,
did. I'm sure happy they did though, because I understand that David Lametti and Mark Mendocino are going to be in a King Carney government, and they won't have Leopard tanks to crush protesters under their treads the way they wanted to during the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. So,
yeah,
I guess it's just as well we don't have any working tanks, because unfortunately the policy of the Liberal government is if tanks are available, you should use them to crush protesters like they did in China in Tiananmen Square. So, just as well that those tanks have been taken away from them,
but
including the emergency powers of the federal government to accelerate the major projects that we need in order to build this economy and take on the Americans.
my point being, though, is that the state of the Canadian Armed Forces is so deplorable. We can't even replenish the ammunition we gave to Ukraine. We have nothing left.
Oh, no. Didn't you hear, though? I'm sorry to interrupt, David, but didn't you hear that Trudeau's great plan for that was to confiscate Western Canadian gopher guns and fill, container loads of mixed matched firearms without magazines, without training manuals, without ammunition, and send all of our guns to the front in Ukraine so that the Ukrainian conscripts could hold our 22 caliber semi-automatic gopher guns in the face of Spetsnaz soldiers? I mean, the whole thing is just ludicrous.
My point still being, though, I don't think Alberta will have any difficulty replicating what Canada already has as a national
well,
defense.
No, but just one other point I wanted to make, like, as well as all of the signatures that have been flooding into APP over the last 4 days, and it's been a real challenge for us organizationally. All of us have been working around the clock, putting in 15, 16, 17-hour days. I do admit that I did stop to watch the Oilers beat LA last night in overtime, so we do find some time. But anyway, in the last 4 days, we've had over 15,000 volunteers come forward that we're now in the process of onboarding. So we have a 87 constituency door knocking campaign planned in support of getting referendum signatures. We're going to have an 87 constituency door knocking campaign and canvassing campaign being planned in support of the actual referendum itself. And we now have more volunteers in APP than they have infantry men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces. Think about that, right? We don't have 15,000 infantry left in the Canadian Army. Like, it's ludicrous. We have more. I couldn't believe it. I had to look this up one day when somebody told me this was true, because I thought it was just so bizarre. We have more tax collectors in Canada, 65,000 of them, than we do all men and women in all branches of service in the Canadian Armed Forces. We have like 35,000 in total. And as you know from your service, and I know from my service, when you actually look at boots on the ground and actual combat troops within the Canadian military, our structure is so weak and so poor that the actual boots on the ground are the smallest part of the Canadian Armed Forces. So I would be surprised if we even had a single division of combat effective troops left in the Canadian military in the form of infantry, combat engineers, armored corps personnel, artillerymen, etc. Right?
You can't handle the truth.
Resolve to resist